In 2010, scientists in South Africa made a discovery that was supposed to rewrite our understanding of human evolution. But then all evidence of its existence vanished, like it never happened. And now they want to cover up the fact that it even happened. It's me, and this is the story of the most important genetic discovery that you've never heard about. For the past half-century, nearly every scientist has accepted what's called the African Eve theory. Well, they extracted mitochondrial DNA from the bone of a young girl who died about 40,000 years ago in Siberia. The two sequences diverged about 60,000 years before they came together in her. This suggested that her parents belonged to two separate lineages of humans that had been evolving independently until they met and reproduced. The lead author later admitted that the results were ambiguous and could be interpreted in different ways. Despite this, though, the study won a prestigious award from the European Society of Human Genetics, which describes it as a landmark paper. They compared the mitochondrial DNA sequence of this individual to that of modern humans from around the world. And what they found was shocking. But if you look at the hands and feet, it looks more like a human. What's more, the hands and feet seem to indicate that Artie walked upright on two legs, while the rest of the skeleton suggests that she spent a lot of time in trees. Scientists have argued back and forth over what Artie's skeleton really means for human evolution. We know about them because scientists were able to extract ancient DNA from a finger bone that was found in a Siberian cave in 2010. This discovery was huge because it showed that there were multiple groups of humans living at the same time. Instead, they evolved in a network. Different groups of humans interbred and cooperated with each other, which introduced a lot of genetic variation into the human genome. This is why we all have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA in us, and it's why there might be other groups of humans whose DNA is mixed in with ours. Some say it shows that humans evolved from apes, while others argue that it doesn't fit this narrative at all. Well, it turns out that there are some very powerful reasons why scientists do want to talk about this. We also start to question our place in the natural world, and this is something that a lot of people don't want to do. Finally, the traditional narrative of human evolution is based on the idea of separation. We are separate from animals, separate from the rest of nature. This narrative is also deeply ingrained in our culture, and it is something that a lot of people want to believe. If we start to question this narrative, we start to question our relationship with the natural world. And this is something that a lot of people don't want to do. What's more, the traditional narrative of human evolution is based on the idea of progress. We are constantly evolving and becoming better. This narrative is also deeply ingrained in our culture, and it is something that a lot of people want to believe. If we start to question this narrative, we start to question the meaning of life and the direction of humanity. You see, the traditional narrative of human evolution is based on the idea that humans are a special creation. We are the pinnacle of evolution, the highest form of life on Earth. Or are we the result of a much more complex evolutionary history? Well, the truth is older than the bones and louder than the silence. This narrative is deeply ingrained in our culture, and it's something that a lot of people believe. You see, after this paper was published, scientists started to turn up a bunch of new fossils that challenged the traditional narrative of human origins. In 2017, for example, a team of researchers used CT scans to look inside a fossilized skull that was found in Spain in 1984. They found that the brain was much larger than expected for its size, and that it had many primitive features. These findings suggest that this individual may have been a member of an unknown hominin species that lived in Europe. There was a skull found in China in 1971 that dates back 300,000 years and has both human and ape-like features. By extracting and sequencing the DNA of ancient fossils, scientists can get a better understanding of how humans evolved over time. And what they've found is that the traditional narrative of human evolution is wrong. You see, there's a lot of genetic variation in modern humans, even within populations that are close to each other geographically. For example, there's more genetic variation in the United States than there is in all of Europe. This suggests that there must have been a lot of interbreeding between different groups of humans in the past. Humans didn't evolve in a straight line. Instead, different groups of humans interbred and cooperated with each other. There are other skulls like this that have been found throughout the years, but they were always dismissed as being too damaged or too ambiguous to be studied properly. But with new techniques and the help of computers, scientists can now take a closer look at these fossils and see that they don't fit neatly into the standard narrative of human evolution. Well, it means that the traditional narrative of human origins is wrong. We didn't all descend from a single woman in Africa. Instead, we descended from multiple different groups of humans who interbred and cooperated with each other. This suggests that it could represent an early stage in human evolution, or perhaps even an entirely new species of human. There is also a skeleton found in Ethiopia in 1976 that is about 450,000 years old and was named Arti. Again, this fossil doesn't fit neatly into the traditional narrative of human evolution. And it also means that the traditional view of human evolution is wrong. Humans didn't evolve in Africa and then migrate out into the world. Instead, humans evolved throughout the world, with different populations evolving separately until relatively recently in history. Her mitochondrial DNA was more primitive than any living humans outside of Africa, which suggested that she belonged to an ancient lineage of humans that had survived for tens of thousands of years. This theory says that all humans alive today can trace their mitochondrial DNA back to one woman who lived in Africa between 150 and 200,000 years ago. One lineage could be traced back to African populations, just like the African Eve model predicted. But the other lineage was found in the Siberian genome. This meant that the Siberian branch of human evolution split from the African branch between 60 and 80,000 years ago, long after both branches had left Africa. If true, this would mean that there were multiple groups of humans breeding at the same time and not just the single line of mitochondrial Eve. This woman, known as mitochondrial Eve, supposedly gave rise to all other humans through a series of single individuals who each had offspring, but only one at a time. In other words, there were no other breeding populations of humans during this time. Only these chosen few individuals carried on the bloodline to modern humans, passing down their mitochondrial DNA along the way. This idea was incredibly appealing because it fit neatly into the then current paradigm of human evolution. First, humans appeared in Africa. Then they spread outward into Europe and Asia, eventually replacing all earlier human species along the way. This neat and tidy story was further supported by fossil evidence and an apparent lack of any alternative theories. But all of that changed when an international team of scientists announced in the journal Nature that they had found two different lineages of ancient DNA in modern humans. How did they find this? What's more, the researchers realized that the Siberian girl's genome contained two different sets of mitochondrial DNA, one from her mother and one from her father. What does this mean? So why isn't everyone talking about this? Well, it turns out that the study wasn't as groundbreaking as some people thought it was. And that's where things get weird. For example, the Jinyang skull seems to show a mosaic of primitive and derived traits. If you look at the shape of the pelvis and legs, it looks more like a chimpanzee. And again, scientists have begun to uncover more fossils that are changing how we think about human origins. Even more recently, scientists have begun to use ancient DNA to answer questions about human evolution. Take, for example, the Denisovans. They were a group of humans who lived in Asia and interbred with modern humans and Neanderthals. But here's where things get weird. After this discovery, scientists started to realize that there might be other groups of humans that we don't know about. Scientists think that this is because humans didn't evolve in a linear fashion. So why aren't more people talking about this? Why do we still think that all humans evolved from a single group in Africa? If we start to question this narrative, we start to question what it means to be human. And this is something that a lot of people don't want to do. So what is the truth? Did we all really evolve from a single group of humans in Africa? This is an ongoing investigation, and if you want to be involved, here's how you can do it. Thanks for watching.